Hey y'all, it's Cam again. So this is the second video for the Project Mockingbird. Like said at the beginning of the first video, I was watching, I think Tucker Carlson with Alex Jones, and they were just discussing some of the different intelligence gathering type things. And this is one of the things he mentioned was Project, he said Operation maybe, but it is Project Mockingbird, where they basically wiretapped or phone tapped some newsmen. But anyway, let's start here. This says eyes only Mockingbird. And the subject is Project Mockingbird. The background, a routine review of the daily syndicated column of newsmen, um, redacted 1 and 2 in early 1962, developed indications that classified information, sometimes code word material, was being utilized as a basis for a high percentage of their columns. Although much of the information contained in the columns was garbled, it was apparent that key points were frequently direct quotes from classified reports and summaries of recent vintage. The director of security received a requirement from the DCI in March 1962 to attempt through appropriate investigative activity to determine, if possible, the identities of the source or sources of classified information to the newsman. Surveillance was discounted because of the high risk factor, and it was recommended to the DCI that telephonic um, monitoring would be the most productive. In addition, certain investigation limited to discrete checks of record sources was recommended. With the approval of the DCI, around the clock telephone monitoring was conducted, telephone lines to each of the newsmen's homes and to the office which they shared jointly. The activity was continued until mid June 1962, at which time the telephonic coverage was discontinued to coincide with the retirement of the director of security. Knowledge of the activity beyond a limited few of the Office of Security directly involved in processing the acquired data is indicated as being limited to the DCI. The DDCI, the executive director of the comptroller, and the general counsel. Subsequently, the DCI advised that he had briefed the Attorney General, the Secretary of Defense, and the Director of Defense Intelligence Agency. Regular briefings of the DCI were conducted by the Director of Security through the tenure, I don't know, tenure, or maybe throughout the tenure, is TENURE, sorry. That's what it should be, of the operation. Information developed. Project Mockingbird. Hold on. I want to just highlight this. So, Project Mockingbird was extremely productive in developing sources of data, both classified and unclassified, to the two newsmen. As a result of a daily telephone conversation the two men would conduct after the senior member of the team, redacted, would complete the rewrite of raw data left for him in the office by redacted, it became apparent. Hold on. Well, okay. Sorry, I'm trying to highlight all of this, but anyway, it became apparent that redacted acquired most of the sensitive data and that he acquired it in highly accurate form. The obvious garbling of the data occurred in the rewrite by redacted. At first, it was believed that the garbling was a byproduct of redacted regular state of intoxication. I have something to say about it. It says, however, later it became apparent that the garbling was used to disguise the source. So it may be that they're trying to discredit this person. That's why I was thinking that, why they said that he was regularly intoxicated. Anyway, Secrets is eyes only, Mockingbird eyes only. Um, The newsmen's sources were wide-ranging, and much of the information provided to them by these sources never saw print. In a number of cases, the writers specifically noted that such and such an item could not be used in any form because it could be directly attributed to the source. Uh, During its short tenure, Mockingbird established the identities of a significant number of sources and cooperative individuals. Much of this information was of a partisan political nature or was in the nature of seeking a plug. This type of information was not transcribed, but the sources were recorded for reference purposes. In those cases of direct interest to the purpose of Mockingbird, i.e., national defense information, it was possible in many cases to establish a specific identity of the source providing the information. In other cases, it was possible to establish only a general, non-specific identification of the source, such as my friend's over in Navy, he works right in their office, etc. Because of the frequent compromise of sources by the newsmen, either by name or the essential elements which could lead to identification of an individual, it became apparent that over an extended period of time, most, if not all, such sources could be identified. As noted earlier, it was decided to terminate Mockingbird with the retirement of the director of security rather than to continue the activity for a more desirable period of time. Sources of information of all sorts used by redacted 1 and redacted 2 can be generalized as the following. Oh, yep, hold on. Why is it not letting me do that? So I'm trying to highlight this. The Speaker of the House, member of the Senate and House of Representatives, congressional staff members, members of the news media, employees and staff members of the White House, the Department of State, the Department of Defense, the Agency for International Development, USAID, the Department of Justice, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, so NASA, and the Central Intelligence Agency, staff members of the Office of the Vice President, the Republican and Democratic National Committees, lobbyists, retired federal officers and officials, miscellaneous others ranging from a union official to a priest. Let's see. Says there appeared to be a fairly clear division of source types between redacted and redacted, which might be generalized as follows. Redacted appeared to have most of the contact among former Army associates, redacted 8 and redacted 9, for example, and old New Deal personalities, redacted, for example, the New Deal. Basically, redacted 2 by far the most active of the 2 men and had the remaining contacts. Monitors of Mockingbird were frequently amazed at the sheer bulk of information redacted 2 would acquire in the course of a day. Most of the highly classified information mentioned as such in the conversations is directly attributed to redacted 2 sources. Redacted 2 made frequent reference to his close association with redacted 11. And in one discussion with his White House source, promised a redacted 12 in addition for a report he subsequently received from the White House records. Identity 2, taken a leave of absence from the column the previous year to assist in an unsuccessful political bid of, redacted 13. Mockingbird was not successful during its 3 months of operation in identifying redacted 1 and not redacted 2 sources or sources in this agency. The principal source of concern, Mr. X, appeared to be in the Office of National Estimates. A blind memo regarding him included references to his written comments on certain national estimates and statements he is supposed to have made. It was shown by the Director of Security to Mr. Sherman Kent. Mr. Kent was not aware of Mockingbird as the source. Mr. Kent subsequently advised the Director of Security that he was unable to identify Mr. X from the information provided. One significant factor developed by Mockingbird was the ability of the newsmen to obtain warnings or guidance regarding possible threats to their activities. For example, in mid 1962, Redacted 2 advised that Redacted 1 that they were under investigation by the Air Force Office of Special Investigations as a result of their accurate overflight stories. According to Redacted 2, the Secretary of Defense had directed the Director of Defense Intelligence Agency to conduct an investigation of the newsmen in an attempt to develop their sources. Their Director of DIAs subsequently held a meeting with OSI regarding the proposed conduct of the investigation. A friend of Redacted 2's was present in a Pentagon office when a participant of the meeting was discussing it with other personnel. Because there were too many people present at the time, the friend was unable to obtain full details. Subsequently, the friend was able to obtain further details. General Carroll had discussed such an investigation with the DCI a week or so earlier. He was not told at the time of Mockingbird, but it was suggested that he initiate no investigative action. When the foregoing information was obtained, he was immediately briefed on Mockingbird and showed the transcript of the pertinent conversations. General Carroll insisted that he had adhered to DCI's instruction and that the meeting described by Redacted 2 had not taken place. In May of 1962, Redacted 1 indicated that he had recently been visited by a man from CIA, an old Army friend, Identity 59. The apparent tenor of the meeting dealt with pot shots being taken at the DCI, and the DCI is concerned that the administration was planning to unload him or kick him upstairs. In a subsequent conversation, Redacted 2 advised Redacted 1 that he, Redacted 2, had been cautioned to be a little careful in what he said to Identity 14. Identity 14, he said, is very close to another person in CIA with loyalty like that to Mr. McCone. We've heard that name before. I've read about him, and he was in the JFK files. Identity 2, or Redacted 2, whatever, indicated that his source had advised that Identity 14 had a couple of meetings with this other unnamed person this week, and that Identity 14's visit to Identity 1 may be both friendly and a surveillance job. Identity 14 was not aware of Mockingbird, but was cooperating with the Director of Security because of the mutual concern that Identity 1 and Identity 2's classified revelations. He indeed met the Director of Security both prior to and after his visit to Identity 1. Identity 2's source of this information was never identified. Attachment 1 is a list of contacts and sources of Identity 1 and Identity 2, or Redacted 1, Redacted 2. Those indicated by an asterisk provide information to them ranging from incidental political data to sensitive military information. Parenthetical numbers indicate a specific report in the attached Mockingbird notebook. those for which no number appears are those persons identified in other conversation. These latter conversations were not transcribed because they did not deal directly with the information leakage of concern. Attachment 2 is a bigot list for Project Mockingbird. Okay, I'm gonna stop this here and then we'll keep going maybe on to, oh yeah, the list. What is a bigot list? Anyway, we'll stop right here. Um, well, it says attachment 1, list of contacts and sources of identity 1, identity 2, located in tab 1 the project file, and then attachment 2, bigot list. What is a bigot list? What the heck does that mean? For project Mockingbird, located under tab 1 in project file. I've never heard of a bigots list. Let's see. Let's see what a bigot list is. It's kind of probably say something about, oh, a bigot list was a high security classification used by the Allies during World War II, particularly in the planning of Operation Overlord and D-Day. It designated individuals with knowledge of sensitive information related to the invasion of Normandy, including landing beaches. Let me see. The bigot list was a way to restrict access to classified information, ensure that only those cleared to know specific details could participate in the planning. Okay. So I guess historical significance is still talking about the overlord. A modern use, while not a security term in modern context, the term bigot list is sometimes used informally to refer to lists of individuals with restricted access to sensitive information. Okay, got it. Anyway, I wasn't sure. I've never heard that before. Some of these pages are either redacted completely or they're just like, like they put a empty sheet of paper in between. Recall that the was strong on economic actors by CIA, and then I don't know, have a something. Some of these people can't write, or I just can't read what they're writing. Okay, so let me go ahead and stop here. Uh, I'll keep going because I just don't want it to cut off on me for whatever reason. It sometimes does that, but I'll come back to this in just a minute and we'll try to get them all uploaded today. Anyway, talk to y'all later. Bye.